Hi, my name is Carla. I've been knitting for 1 year and 5 months, and these are my projects. So I've been recovering from this minor medical procedure, so I've been knitting quite literally nonstop for the last 2 weeks, so I have a lot of progress on quite a few projects. This is a regular knitting podcast. I'll be showing my finished objects, my works in progress, a couple new cast-ons, and a few acquisitions at the end. But first I'll talk about what I'm wearing. So I'm wearing a very simple pink tank top. It is the Anytime Tank by Camel Knits. It's a simple stockinette top. This was the first knit garment I ever finished, so it is the most, I looked for the most basic pattern. It's just like stockinette in the round, and there's triangles at the top and then some straps, and that's really it. But the pattern's a really good beginner pattern because it teaches you how to make a gauge swatch, how to measure your gauge, and then how to get the perfect stitch counts for what kind of fit that you want, and it explains everything really well. So I found it really good as a beginner pattern for me. I made like the most perfect gauge swatch because it was the first one I ever made, and I really wanted to do it right with the 4x4 plus the garter border. And yeah, I was just like really proud of finishing this, even though it is very simple. There's no finishings, but like I said, beginner project. I made this with malabrigo mechita, which is a 1-ply, just like roving fingering yarn, and it's in the color Rosalinda. It's in my favorite colors, pink and purple, and I really like the way it worked up. I didn't alternate skeins or anything, so this is just like how the yarn looks when you knit it up in stockinette, and I think it looks really cool. You might see me adjusting the straps a bit. I think I just like sewed them on a little bit too far, and I think this is not a pattern problem, this is a me problem. If I just sewed them on a little bit closer, it would be a lot more comfortable. But I still think the fit is really nice, and I think, yeah, I really like wearing this one. So this is my finished object of the episode. It is a pair of striped socks. It's a gift knit that I have been working on for quite a long time because I had a few setbacks. If you have been following along on the pod, you'll know that I accidentally knit this in 2 different color greens. I made a big order of Knit Pick Stroll, and I ordered like maybe 10 different colors. I thought I was picking 2 of the same color for this sock, but I ended up picking 2 shades that were really close together. I believe one of these greens, or one of these blue greens, is called Rainforest, and one of them is called Rainstorm. And I would guess that the one that's greener is called Rainforest, but anyway. Because I knit these in 2 different colors, I took a long break from them because I was like kind of annoyed, but I finally finished them, so let's talk about it. So this is an all over, well, mostly all over. It's 2x2 rib from here down, and then on the foot I did 2x2 rib just on the top, and I did stockinette on the bottom. I'm not following any pattern. I do consult the Summerly Knits I'm So Basic sock for the heel flap and gusset, but that's really all I followed from that pattern. I cast on 80 stitches, and I'm using 00 needles. This was my first time using 00 needles, so I did quite a bit of experimentation. As I mentioned earlier, I'm using Knit Pick Stroll. I am using 4 different colors. I believe the colors are called Duchess Heather, Midnight Heather. Well, I'm using 5 colors because of the mistakes. So I'm using Duchess Heather, Midnight Heather, Rainstorm Heather, Rainforest Heather, and Cobblestone Heather. These are a gift knit for some large-ish feet. So with 10 stitches per inch, I decided to do 80 stitches to make it 8 inches in diameter. I did it in ribbing so that it would have a better chance of fitting well, and I also decided not to use a sock blocker. That's why they look really long and skinny, because I didn't want the ribbing to stretch out before the wearer got a chance to wear them. So this was my first time using 00 needles. I want to talk a bit about my journey there. So I didn't have any 00 needles, so I had to order some, and I ordered a few different ones because they're kind of hard to find. A lot of local yarn stores that I went into didn't have them, and so I had to order them online. So I actually used different needles throughout the socks, but I made sure to knit the socks at the same time and switch needles at the same time so that the gauge would at least be consistent between the socks throughout the socks. So they start a little looser and they get tighter here, and then they get way more consistent over here, I think. But yeah, I'll explain. So my preferred needles are chiaogoo needles, but I I have a chiaogoo DPN set, but it only goes down to 0, and I wanted to try 00. And I couldn't find 00 chiaogoo DPNs online, so I found these 2 sets online. This one is a set of Susan Bates needles, and this one is a set of hiyahiya needles. The Susan Bates needles are longer by like an inch. I think these are 6 inches and these are 7, something like that. But I have to say, I didn't like knitting with either of these. I do like DPNs. I really do like using them, but I have some complaints. These are pink, which is why I really was excited to use them, but I didn't like using them because they're a little too long for socks. Maybe they'd be better for like hats or something like that, but I found that whatever I was knitting, they were always just like poking into my wrists, and I didn't like that. They were just kind of always in the way. They're also a little too flimsy, so I felt like I couldn't actually get the tight gauge because I felt like if I knit at the tightness that I wanted to knit, that they would break. But I don't know if that's just me or if I would have gotten used to them eventually. I don't know, but you can tell on the sock that my gauge is looser at the top than like towards the bottom. I also think that they're too pointy, so I wonder if they were this long and not this sharp, if they would have bothered me as much, but I just felt like I was getting pricked too much and I didn't like it. And I have knit with DPNs before. I knit with my chiaogoo DPNs all the time, and I wasn't bothered by getting poked. Next are the hiyahiya DPNs. These are almost exactly like the chiaogoo DPNs. I will say it was an upgrade to switch to these because I think they're a lot harder than the pink ones, and I thought that because they were a lot more sturdy, I was able to get that tight knit that I really wanted. But again, I was just getting tired of getting poked. These are really sharp. If I'm not mistaken, I think these might be called like hiyahiya sharps or something like that. So they're supposed to be sharp. So there's a reason for them to be this sharp, but I didn't like it, and I think it's just not for me, which is fine. So I caved and got a pair of chiaogoo needles that are on another project, but I just got chiaogoo circular needles, and that's how I finished the project. So I want to say I did like this part on the pink DPNs. I did like this much on the hiyahiya DPNs, and then I did like the bottom. Maybe I went up to here even, and then I did the bottom on the chiaogoo circulars. And I don't regret that. I tried a bunch of things. It's okay to try things and not like them, but you can see how my gauge changes throughout the socks. But I can say that I think the socks look the same, I think, besides the color. I think I managed to get the gauge to be the same throughout the socks, which is what matters. That's it on these socks. And that's my only finished object for this episode. Oh, one more thing is only the green and blue are different between the socks, but the grays are the same. But I think it's pretty interesting that the grays look a lot darker on this sock and lighter on this sock, I think. And that's just because of the contrast. Something color theory. I think that's pretty cool. On to the next project. It is my groovy tank. It's in a bag because I haven't worked on it in a while for reasons. This is my groovy tank. It's a test knit for Midsummer Knits, and I'm making it in 2 different sewrella lavenderish colorways that I am blending together. I got really close to finishing. I did, all the bust shaping, I did the straps, and all I would have had to do is continue these straps and attach them onto the back. But this is a test knit. Things happen in a test knit. So yeah, just here to walk you through that process. So the way that this top is knit is from the bottom up. So it's 2x2 rib up to here. And then you do all this bust shaping, and then you do the straps. And I knit everything to pattern, and I tried it on. And you can kind of tell what I'm about to say from looking at this. I was surprised to see that the bust shaping was really long. When I tried it on, the cups, these points over here, went maybe like 4 inches below my actual bust and actually went lower than my natural waist. So the fit was definitely a little weird. I think that you can tell from looking at it, it's a little long. And I think what happened is that the designer designed the bust for the first 2 sizes and then scaled it up like 8 more sizes. And the way that the pattern scaled was that as the bust size got larger, the cups got longer proportionally, but that's just not the way bodies work, I guess. But that's the way that the pattern worked. I've been one of the earlier test knitters, so I finished like the body before most people and started working on the cups before most people. So I was, I think, the second person to finish the cups, and I sent a photo and I sent the feedback, and the designer Emma was actually really responsive, and she told everyone to kind of stop what they were doing so she could update the pattern. So she updated the pattern like that weekend, and she's already released like a new version of it. She did a lot of work to get the pattern like completely rewritten, so I really appreciate that from her. I'm not really looking forward to frogging this, but I'm not gonna wear it the way it is, so I'm gonna have to frog it, and I think that's just the nature of test knitting. It's been a learning experience for sure, and it's cool to see like how a pattern evolves, I guess. So I mentioned I'm using 2 colors of sewrella on size 1 needles. I did helical knitting to kind of blend one color with both colors, and then I thought that at this point it would be a good time to switch to only using my second color. So this whole bust shaping part is done in one color, but then again, because this was way longer than anticipated, because you know, this isn't what the picture looks like in the pattern. So I did like this section in one color and then realized I would have to bring the other color back in because I was gonna run out of the second color. So I started fading again, kind of on the section, and you can see the fade, but I think that I did a better job of making it kind of a smoother fade. I just kind of alternated skeins over here, but I did something like, you know, 3 and then 1 and then 2 and then 1 and then 1 and then 1 and then 1 and then 2 and something like that to get like a good fade. And in order to do that, I had to like start my yarn on different sides, meaning I had to cut my yarn a few times. So this is like what the back looks like with all my ends kind of tied together. And that's fine. I wouldn't have minded weaving that in because I feel like it has a nice like blended effect. The problem is that now I'm going to frog it. So I'm gonna have a bunch of pieces and I think those might be wasted. I might be able to use them, I'm not really sure, but it's fine, it happens. These were discounted colorways from Sewrella because they're like the ones that, you know, didn't make the official collection. So it's like, that's why they don't match and that's why I had to blend them. So it's not a big deal, but it's all learning experience and I'm excited to redo the pattern to like fit me properly. This is why test knitting is very important, but I'm not gonna like rush to work on this because I kind of feel like I was the guinea pig at the beginning of the test knit, so I'm gonna wait for other people to kind of work out the details and then I'll hop in kind of at the last minute because I think I contributed a lot to editing this pattern, so I think I can like sit back a bit for now and work on my other projects first. This is due like at the end of May, so like a week or 2 into May is when I'll pick it up again and redo the whole like top half. So yeah, that's the groovy tank. So I mentioned this in my last episode and I'm really excited to show that I have started my second folklore cardigan. I'm not wearing my first folklore cardigan right now because it is wet, because I washed it, because I wear it like every single day. And I am making another one out of non-superwash yarn to have another more durable version of it that I can wear every day, I guess, and kind of give the other one a bit of a break. So this is the beginning. This is actually my gauge swatch. I decided to swatch by doing the first repeat of a sleeve. I should say I'm doing the folklore cardigan by Amy Gunderson. I think that pattern is the most true to the original cardigan. It's a drop shoulder where you do everything in panels and then you seam them together. So I decided to start with a sleeve so that I could use it as my gauge swatch. I did one pattern repeat, which is like the ribbing and then one diamond. I pretty much hit gauge exactly. I blocked it and I measured it this morning and I think that I'm going to stick with the recommended needle size. I am using pure gynt, which is a non-superwash Norwegian wool. I'm using the colors natural and Bristol black, and I'm using the recommended needle size of 3.5 for the ribbing and 4mm for the rest of the cardigan. I'm doing size 3, which is the same size I made for the original cardigan, and that will give me like 10 inches of positive ease, which will be really nice and slouchy. I actually think that, so I made this size in the other yarn, but it was a superwash yarn, and I think my gauge was pretty loose, and so there's like a lot of positive ease in that one. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like more like 15 inches of positive ease, but I'll be excited for the 10 inches fit. And I'll love them both, but with more experience with gauge swatching and stuff, I think that this will be closer to what the pattern actually intended for the size of the cardigan, which I'm excited for. And that's it for this one. I mentioned I had this like medical procedure and I was like recovering, like not at home, so I didn't have this project on me, so I didn't make as much progress as I wanted to, but this is a swatch and I expect to make pretty quick progress on this moving forward. Next, I'll do a quick update on my Sophie shawl. This is a pattern by petiteknit. I'm knitting this in Sewrella Classic DK in the colors Enchanted and Sugar Mountain, and I am holding it with Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the color Artichoke Purple. I think the last time I talked about this, I was like maybe right here at the end of the Enchanted section, and I continued with Sugar Mountain, which is one of Serella's winter tonals, and keeping the same mohair. I finally got to the midpoint where you go from increasing to decreasing, so this is where it's going to sit on my neck, and I think like with the two-tone it'll be like pretty interesting to have like one side variegated and one not, regardless of where the actual line is. So I only had one skein of the Enchanted and it didn't quite make it to the middle, and I knew I wanted to do the large size, so I just went ahead and started the Sugar Mountain, and I think it looks fine. I think it looks funny when you're just like holding it up, but I think it'll look good just like wrapped around. And I have several skeins of Sugar Mountain, so I should definitely be able to finish this. So this is right here is one skein of Sugar Mountain in the middle, and then I should be able to use one skein to finish it off, and that'll be, I'll probably finish this in a little less than 3 skeins of DK. I should be able to finish this quickly. The only reason why I haven't finished this already is because I didn't have another skein on me when I was working on it. A little update on mohair. I think that I have been mostly fine working on this, and it's been nowhere near as bad as the first time I worked with mohair. I don't know. Is it the allergy medicine? Is my body getting used to it? I don't know, but I want to be able to wear this, so my body is just willing it to happen. So I seem to be fine now. Okay, so my last project is a new cast on. It is arguably the most boring project I've ever worked on, but I'm weirdly really into it. It is an all gray, completely stockinette sock. So I didn't even do ribbing for it. I'm just doing a rolled stockinette edge, and I'm gonna do stockinette all the way. I plan to do a heel flap and gusset, but instead of doing the slip stitch heel, I'm just gonna do a stockinette heel because that just sounds nice to me. So this is Knit Pick Stroll in the color Cobblestone Heather. So I mentioned I was a bit stranded recovering from this medical procedure. I had 3 projects on me, but I pretty much finished all of them. So I had the striped socks and those were done. I had my groovy tank, but I couldn't make any more progress on it because the pattern was going to change. I had my Sophie shawl and I finished the skein of yarn that I had on me. So all I had was like extra yarn from the stripy socks. And so I decided to cast on a pair of socks. At first, I thought I might kind of freehand some like lace or cables or something, and then I just kept getting annoyed and I really just wanted something easy. I was like in a lot of pain and discomfort, so I really wanted something super, super easy, like no thoughts. I was sick of ribbing because I had been doing rib socks and the groovy tank, so I decided to just do stockinette, and honestly, I love it. I have my little stitch markers in rainbow order just to keep count because there's lots of stitches, and also I just think it's like, I like the sound it makes, and I think that it just like makes it a little bit more cheery while I work on them. I do like that they're gray. I think they'll go with everything and I'll wear them all the time. A few details on the socks first. So I'm making these for me, which I'm really excited about. So I'm trying to make them fit perfectly to my feet with everything that I've been learning from like the internet, mostly Reddit. I'm trying to make them last. So that's the reason why I've been knitting on size 00 needles. I really want a tight gauge. These are the 00 circular chiaogoo needles that I was talking about earlier. And I have officially gotten to 10 stitches per inch, which has been my goal with sizing down needles so many times. And that is supposed to give you a nice, like, dense sock where the stitches don't move around as much. I think they won't pill or felt as easily. I think that's how that works because there's not as much movement, so not as much like damage that is caused by movement will happen. But I will let you know how this holds up. The other thing is, because it's 10 stitches per inch, I need to cast on a lot more stitches. I also am trying to go for 10% negative ease, which is not as much negative ease as I usually do. So 0 ease for my 8-inch foot would be 80 stitches. 10% negative ease would be like -8 stitches. So I'm doing a 72 stitch sock, which is the most number of stitches I've ever done for a sock for myself. But these are the smallest stitches I've ever done. And this is the least ease I've ever done. Supposedly, less ease and less needing to stretch your sock makes for a better fit, but I will let you know how that goes. Size 0 needles, 72 stitches, 10% negative ease, and I'm doing stockinette all the way because it makes me happy. These are what I'm calling my boring socks. More on my boring socks next time. Lastly, I have an acquisition. This is a box from Sewrella. I love Sewrella. I order from Sewrella all the time. This is an order from the Wicked collection. They do their orders on a pre-order basis, so I ordered these several weeks ago and they just came recently. I ordered 4 colorways and I'm gonna open it up right now. So I ordered 4 colorways in their new nylon sock base, which is a 75/25 merino nylon. And I ordered them all in nylon sock because I love making socks and I'm probably going to make the leftovers of whatever I make into socks. So first I wanted to show the labels. They're so cute. They are like Oz themed. I believe this is actually called the Oz collection, not the Wicked collection, but it's based on like the Wicked movie. And I got this colorway, which is Glinda, who I love. I love Ariana. I love her portrayal of Glinda, and I think that these will make some cute socks. I also got the Dancing Through Life colorway, so I love that song so much. I listened to that song like every day when I was 13 years old. I would say I was obsessed, and I really liked these colors. I love blue, green, and purple. I love the way they go together, and I think that this would make a really fun pair of socks as well. So I just got one of each of these colors for my, usual sock making. And I was just thinking, how many socks do I really make? And then I realized a lot of people have a goal of making a pair of socks a month, but I've actually made more than a pair of socks a month this year because I finished a pair of like purple stripy ones in January and a pink one in either January or February, and then I did 2 gift knits. So I've actually already finished 4 pairs of socks this year, and we haven't finished April yet, and I'm already working on another pair. So I think that I'm doing pretty good on the sock knitting game, and so I'm happy to have more yarn to work on socks with. The other 2 I got are Oz Dust and I'm Not That Girl, and this one is just like a purpley color that is giving like sad girl alphaba, and this one is a black color that is supposed to represent alphaba in the Oz Dust Ballroom, but is actually like has purple tones in it. So I think that's really cool. Like it's coming off actually even more purple on camera than it is in my hand. So I'm actually excited to use these together. I want to make like a tank top with it. I haven't fully committed to a pattern yet, but my like local knitting group is doing a stripe along, so I'm excited to make like a striped top with these. I want to make sure that the contrast looks good together, but looking at it right now, I think it looks really nice. I almost forgot to mention that I got their wool wash in the scent Glinda, and I can't really explain this, but it smells like pink bubbles. So yeah, that's everything for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you made a bunch of progress on your projects, and I'll see you next time. Bye!